Have you ever thought about a place that, well, it doesn't really exist anymore? Not really. Except maybe in old photos or in the memories of the people who once called it home. Some places, even entire villages, are kind of like that, ghosts on a modern map. Today, we're going to visit one of those places. We're stepping back in time to explore the lost village of Crownhill. So how are we going to do this? Well, our guide on this amazing journey is a memoir by a man named Arthur L. Clamp. We're going to use his words, his memories, as our own personal time machine, our map to a crown hill that has long since been swallowed up by the city of Plymouth, a world that has, for the most part, completely vanished. And that really gets you thinking, right? It brings us to this big question. Can a place that's been physically wiped off the map still feel like home? Well, let's find out by stepping right into someone else's memories. All right, let's do it. Our trip takes us back to the early 20th century, a time when Crownhill wasn't just some suburb. No, it was a living, breathing village with its own pulse, its own identity. See, before it became just another neighborhood in Plymouth, Crownhill was its own thing entirely. It was a whole community built around this really crucial intersection. You had the main road heading out to Tavistock and another one that connected all the nearby parishes. This crossroads wasn't just a point on a map. It was the absolute heart of the village. To really get a feel for this lost world, we can't just talk about it. We've got to walk its streets. So come on, let's take a little tour through memory lane and see what this place actually looked like. Check this out. This map from 1919 is basically our treasure map for this whole journey. You can see the main roads crossing, and bam, right there in the middle, you've got this key landmark, the Crownhill Barracks. Pretty much everything we're about to see spins out from this one central spot. And here it is, the main artery of the village, Tavistock Road, back in the 1920s. This specific section was famous for being a bottleneck. It got so narrow that carriages would literally have to pull over and wait for each other to pass. Can you just imagine the noise? The horses, the people shouting, all the little daily dramas playing out right here on this street. You know how every village has that one spot, the place where everything happens? Well, for Crownhill, this was it. This was Raymond's Corner. It had it all. As you can see in this photo from the early 20s, there was a saddlery for the horses, a confectionery for a sweet treat, and of course, the post office. This wasn't just a place to run errands, it was the social hub of the entire community. But a village is so much more than its buildings. It's the people. And from what we can tell, Crownhill had some real characters. This is where you start to feel what was truly lost. Not just the buildings, but the people, the connections, the shared daily life. And you know how it is in any small community. There are always those local figures that everyone knows. The ones whose stories get told and retold. They basically become part of the town's identity. And in Crownhill, oh man, one of the most unforgettable local legends was this man. Everyone knew him simply as Donkey Row. He was this beloved figure, famous for his team of donkeys that he used to haul firewood into the village. So what was his deal? What made him so memorable? Well, according to our guide, Arthur Clamp, Donkey Row was famous for his blustering, vociferous voicings. Apparently his shouts and curses at his stubborn donkeys, he called them his mokes, was a familiar sound all through the village as he brought wood down from the local forests. He was noisy, he was hardworking, and he was an absolutely essential part of life there. Okay, so we've seen the village through an adult's eyes, but what was it like for a kid growing up there? Let's switch gears for a second, because for them, Crownhill wasn't just a village, it was a giant playground just full of simple, amazing adventures. Think about it. No movies, no TV, no video games. Entertainment was a totally different ballgame back then. And for the kids in Crownhill, one of the absolute most exciting things that could happen was a visit from the magic lantern. It was basically an early slide projector, but to them, it was absolutely mesmerizing. And I just love this quote from the author because you can feel the wonder in his words. Imagine it. Seeing projected, colorful images for the very first time. It wasn't fancy technology, not by our standards, but in a world without screens, it was just pure magic. A first taste of a whole visual world beyond their own. And what about a holiday? A huge adventure was a day trip in what they called a wagonette. It was basically a big old horse-drawn cart. They'd all pile in and travel maybe 10 or 15 miles away to some local beauty spot. And the journey itself, singing songs at the top of their lungs, that was as much a part of the fun as getting there. A simple trip like this was the event of the year. And that's the thing. The countryside wasn't just pretty scenery to look at. It was part of their lives. During harvest time, the kids would all go out to the fields of nearby farms, like Whitey Farm right here, to help with the haymaking. Sure, it was work, but it was also a time of huge excitement and community. A simple pleasure that tied them right to the land. But, as we all know, that kind of world, it couldn't last forever. Our last section here is all about how time and progress and development just completely changed the landscape we've been exploring. I mean, just look at this. Nothing shows the change more powerfully. Up top, you've got Crownhill Fort, this massive stone structure sitting on high ground, totally surrounded by open fields. And on the bottom? The exact same area after decades of development. It's not just a change, it's a complete erasure of what was there before. The difference is just staggering. The transformation is just so stark. What used to be a landscape defined by a single fort and wide open country is now a sea of housing estates. Those vast fields are just gone. They're buried under roads like Elgin Crescent. The entire rural soul of the place has been paved over. This photograph of Manadon Hill from 1946, it feels like a final, really poignant goodbye. You can still see the open space, the trees. You can still feel that it's a country road. It's a snapshot of a world that was right on the edge of disappearing forever. A world that now, really and truly, only exists in these reflections. So, as we leave the memory of Crownhill behind, it leaves us with one last thought. Every single town, every city, every suburb has ghosts just like this one. Lost buildings, forgotten characters, entire ways of life that have just vanished. So it makes you wonder, what stories are buried just beneath the surface of the place that you call home?